It's aggressive, powerful, the embodiment of 60 years of racing and car building experience. It's the ultimate Mustang for enthusiasts who want it all. The Nevada State Police have closed down this desert road so we can find out just how fast this machine will go.
3, 2, 1, go, Gary!
Carroll Shelby has spent a lifetime taking on the best automotive manufacturers in the world and has always found a way to come out on top.
Lee Iacocca said, maybe we better give this nutcase $25,000 before he bites somebody.
In the nearly 50 years since, he's used this championship DNA to build some of the finest American performance and racing cars and cement his place in history as the one and only King of the Road. In the long history of American automobiles, no man has embodied performance quite like Carroll Shelby.
My name's Carroll Shelby, and performance is my business.
As a successful racer, then as manufacturer of the iconic Cobra, Shelby had the drive and experience to make real the dreams of racers and enthusiasts alike.
I drove race cars. I loved it for 10 years and was fairly successful. And then my heart petered out, and I had to quit in 1960. I had a chance to win the world championship, but that wasn't one of my ambitions. I wanted to build my own car.
I think Carroll Shelby will go down in history as a fierce independent who collaborated occasionally and with great success with major manufacturers because he knew what the population needed. He knew what would sell cars because he was down there in the trenches. He was doing it. He was a driver. He knew what drivers wanted.
His racing career over, Shelby plunged headlong into car manufacturing, and the result was the Cobra, a fusion of European handling and raw American power that's still considered by many the finest sports car ever built in the States. Shelby's relationship with Ford Motor Company, who provided the engines for the Cobra, led to the legendary GT cars that dethroned Ferrari at Le Mans in the late 60s. But the most visible and lucrative result of the Shelby-Ford relationship was Shelby's involvement with Ford's wildly successful Mustang in 1965. The motor company wanted to add new performance models to their lineup to grow the brand, and so they naturally turned to Carroll Shelby.
Lee Iacocca called me one day and said, put a budget together, said I had $1,500. I had to run around to Goodyear and everybody else and hustle to build the first Mustang.
And that became Shelby's GT350, which featured a lightened Mustang, firmer suspension, and an improved 289 cubic inch hypo V8 that would now pump out 306 horsepower. When the horsepower wars of the 1960s heated up, so did the Shelby Mustangs.
You know, Carroll Shelby was the person who took the car and expanded its range. He's the one who did the performance version of it. He's the one who raced it. That was totally what took the car from, you know, I'll say just a car like this to a car like this.
In 1967, the Mustang got bigger, and Ford was ready with its 428 cubic inch Police Interceptor, 335 horsepower big block engine with dual 4-barrel carburetors for a little extra kick. The Shelby GT 500 was a powerful boulevard cruiser that would feed the public's need for speed. In 1968, the GT 350 and GT 500's assembly was moved to A.O. Smith in Ionia, Michigan. A.O. Smith was building fiberglass components for Chevrolet's Corvettes and now would produce the fiberglass hoods and oversee the final assembly of Shelby Mustangs. With restrictions on horsepower and legislated emissions looming, Shelby saw the writing on the wall and withdrew from building cars that could not meet his performance standards. The production car wouldn't bear his name until nearly 20 years later, when his friend Lee Iacocca talked him into coming back to the business. Shelby would become the father of a new genre. Compact performance cars, including the Charger and the turbocharged Go Like Hell Shelby Omni GLHS. Shelby set up shop in Las Vegas, where in 1999 he built his first car from a clean sheet of paper, the Series 1 Roadster, which Shelby American would manufacture for 6 years. The 320 horsepower 4-liter Aurora V8 power plant from the now defunct Oldsmobile Company propelled the lightweight aluminum chassis and carbon fiber bodied Series 1 into the league of legitimate supercars. In 2006, Shelby and Ford enthusiasts rejoiced with the news of Carroll reuniting with Ford in order to once again inject a shot of adrenaline into the Mustang line. For Edsel Ford, it brought back memories of working for the legend in his racing heyday.
It's just like it was in the 60s. I've had a long relationship with Carroll Shelby. I started working for him in 1966 as a summer job.
His father sent him out because he was interested in performance cars, and he says, put him out there washing parts. Christ, I couldn't do that to Edsel Ford. And
That's what I did do, though.
yeah.
Carroll got older, I got older. The company's a different company, but the relationship with Carroll Shelby and Shelby American and all of that is as good today as it was back then.
Nobody would know the Carroll Shelby name without Ford Motor Company.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Shelby name adds a lot of cachet to Mustang.
My love for Edsel, I can't tell you what it means to me, because I wouldn't be here at 88 years old talking to you all now if it wasn't for our friendship. Thank you, Edsel.
No, thank you, Carroll. Thank you you're my hero.
The rekindled relationship between Ford and Shelby is rooted in the pursuit of performance, and car lovers took notice when the dynamic duo announced their first project, a recreation of one of the 1960s wildest marketing plans. The 2006 GTH is a modern version of the notorious Shelby Rent-A-Racer, the 1966 GT350H. Ford and Shelby built 1,000 of the 1966 cars for Hertz Car Rental, and amateur racers jumped at the chance to rent a full performance Shelby Mustang for a weekend at the track. Just 500 of the for-rent-only 2006 GTH cars were built for Hertz, but you couldn't buy one.
And then the dealer reaction with these first 500 units that were in Hertz lots was so high that the request came from the dealers back to Ford. Says, can we just, offer it to people who want to come buy it?
The next year would see the car sold to the public as the Ford Shelby GT. 4.6-liter, 319 horsepower machine that was finally available for sale to the general public. The top of the Ford Mustang lineup today is the Shelby GT 500. Reintroduced in 2007, some 40 years after the classic big block Mustang's debut, the wily Texan injected Shelby magic into Ford's big block 5.4-liter supercharged V8. Lovers of the 1960s originals took notice.
We have a 67 Shelby GT 500, an 87 Shelby GLHS, and a 2007 GT 500. And the new cars are just amazing. I mean, they have all the creature comforts. They get way better fuel mileage than the 67 does. So it's a lot easier to drive at long distances, a lot more enjoyable. And his cars are just, well, they're so, they just stand out. They look so different than anything else on the road.
Other recent Shelby Mustangs include the Terlingua Racing Team model, named after Carroll's East Texas ranch. This is a V6 performance and braking package with an optional supercharger. In 2008, Shelby brought the GT 500 to his Vegas facility to boost its performance.
We were in production with the GT 500, and I think Carroll wanted to do something a little more focused and a little more visceral.
The GT 500 KR, king of the road, would now sport 540 horsepower from its supercharged 5.4-liter V8 with functional cold air intake and unique calibrations. Coming up, a look behind the scenes at the nerve center of Shelby American.
If you have a problem, I can fix it.
And later, an all-access pass as the Shelby guys go racing. Just as he did in the 1960s, building cars faster and more powerful than the competition is the mission of Shelby American. Its headquarters north of Las Vegas, Nevada, functions not only as a factory and speed shop, but also as a museum where visitors can take the tour and learn more about some of Carroll Shelby's most historically significant cars.
What we have right here, this is a stock GT500. This is how the car will come from Ford. On this side, you have a 2008 Shelby GT500 prototype, Super Snake. We actually loaned the car to a popular magazine, and they found that this car can do 11 seconds in the quarter mile on stock tires.
The tour moves inside the factory where enthusiasts can view the construction of the continuation Cobras. The most revered sports car in American history is still being built and ordered today in either its 289 or 427 cubic inch V8 powered iteration. Shelby fans will also see the GT350 and monster Super Snake being built. And every once in a while, the legend himself makes an appearance.
How you doing?
How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good, thanks.
Besides his legendary cars, Shelby's popularity is rooted in the connection he has with his fans, young and old. The Shelby Mustangs built today will no doubt be added to the wish list of the next generation of performance enthusiasts.
Good, guys. Take care, everybody.
Meeting Shelby was a treat. He only comes here 3 times a year about, and it's definitely a surprise. We didn't expect it, and it was great to be able to interact with him and ask him questions.
Just to see him.
Yeah.
The tour moves on, but the work continues in the production area.
What we do is we take a GT or we take a GT500 and transform them into our GT350 or the Super Snake. Do all the upgrades as far as superchargers. We do the brakes, we do suspension, the Borla exhaust, interior, the fascia, the rear spoiler, and the surrounds for the rear tail lights, the hood, rockers, and the splitter, and the mirror covers. In this station here, the guys are finishing up on a Super Snake. It's OEM style installation with push pins. Where are you guys at on this project?
Well, right now we're just gonna finish off the brake ducts and plug the holes. We're gonna finish bolting up the splitter here, and then load down and install the wheels.
We still have the hood to do yet, right?
Yes, the hood.
Okay, good.
Every Super Snake leaves the assembly area and is taken to the speed shop. Then strapped to the dynamometer for fine tuning.
A lot of people have different ways of tuning. I'll go up and not only check wide open throttle, but I check dynamic fuel ranges in all the gears, not just one gear. But essentially, I would load the dyno in different fashions to put the car in different situations. To find if there's a bad spot in a spark map table, fuel table, idle control table. All those are very important to make sure when this car leaves, it's 100%. With the program and software that I use, I can manipulate anything, any part of load, any part of RPM, any part of throttle position. If you have a problem, I can fix it if it's within the programming terms.
We rate these engines at 750 horsepower to the flywheel, which basically interpolates to about anywhere between 630 to 640 at the rear wheel, the time you calculate the frictional loss. Heat is a big thing with the GT500 or the Super Snake package. We have a bigger blower on them. We've upgraded the heat exchanger in the front. We've put larger tanks up front to give the cooling system more capacity to try to keep things cool. There's a couple things within my data software that I collected that things need to be moved around a little bit. Speedometer's off, so we'll go in and make those corrections.
In addition to tuning all of the Shelby cars, the Speed Shop is also open for modifications and tuning customers' cars. Racing is a lifestyle for Gil and the Shelby American guys. They don't have a race team, but they jumped at the chance to support their customer, Lyle Burnham, and his specially prepared Shelby GT500 in a 1-mile run at the Mojave Mile Races at the Mojave Air and Spaceport. Standing mile races are gaining popularity with the owners of performance vehicles who are ready to experience the top speed of their machine.
I went to Shelby to have them work on the car because as long as he's been in the industry, he's been kind of like a hero of mine. We've changed cams in it, put a bigger blower on it. We've changed gear ratio in it. We're running a 4-liter Whipple, and right now we're pushing 26 to 28 pounds of boost to it, which is pretty good for stock blocks, stock heads.
The car is a production GT500. It's been fully built basically from the front to the rear at the American Motorsports division at the Shelby plant. Engine makes about 1,050 horsepower at the flywheel. We're going to make a run with the front completely closed off, try to aid in aerodynamics. Right now, we're repairing the motor, changing the tune-up for the current weather conditions, track conditions, put fresh spark plugs in it, getting the intercooler ice down for real cold area inlet temperatures. And that would aid us in making some good horsepower to go fast. Lyle doing the driving duties today, he'll have a lot of things to look at and make sure everything's fine, as well as to keep the car on the track.
Oh, standing mile is fun because you get to go for the mile. You just keep your head clear, drive by the feel of the car. I kind of know what it likes, what it don't like. You just kind of get in a groove and try to become part of the car. I just love to go fast. When I shifted into 4th gear and it pulled up to 6,000 RPM and I ran it up to 6,500, still pulling. I grabbed 5th gear and it was still pulling. I knew we were going to be on a pretty good pass.
The designers of the original mid-60s pony cars could never have imagined that a Mustang would run a mile at speed pushing 200 miles per hour from a standing start.
We ran 192.50. Take it home, service it, put it back in the trailer.
I owe Gary and Gil both a lot of thanks because without them too, the car wouldn't be where it's at today, and they're very easy to work with. They tell me what they feel they need, I tell them what I want, and they just seem to make it happen.
Coming up, Shelby makes plans for a supercar.
Thinking of building a few Mustangs at 1,000 horsepower to see what the market is for them.
We'll take a look at the aerodynamics of the incredible Super Snake when it's taken to Ford's wind tunnel.
And the faster you go, the more you got to keep the car planted to the ground.
Also, we'll take a box stock Super Snake off the production line and unleash it in the desert.
4th gear, we're at 100 miles an hour. 5th gear, we're 130.
Renowned creator of the Cobra and the manager of Ford's winning GT program, Carroll Shelby spent the 1960s working with Ford to take on the world's best road and race cars. And while Shelby and Ford spent nearly 40 years apart, There's been a renewal of the Shelby Mustang brand. The time-tested hot rod ingenuity of Shelby American is incorporated into Ford's 21st century state-of-the-art pony cars, featuring the most modern components and manufacturing technique. Mustangs are performance category leaders at every trim level, from the base model to the Shelby Super Snake. The Shelby Las Vegas production facility assembles the Coyote V8-powered GT350 and the Super Snake based on Ford's new aluminum block 5.4 V8. Regardless of the chosen power plant, every Shelby Mustang begins its life on the assembly line at Automotive Alliance International, or AAI, in Flat Rock, Michigan.
Auto Alliance is a joint venture with Ford and Mazda corporations, and we build both products on the common assembly line. We have approximately 1,800 employees. They're trained to build any one of the vehicles. We build front-wheel drives on the same line as we build rear-wheel drives. We build 2-liter I4s through 5.4-liter Shelbys. We have our own stamping plant on site, as well as our fascia plant on site. We have multiple body styles as well as multiple powertrains.
Shelby is more than a brand. Carroll is a hero to the creative team working with him, developing, engineering, and building the latest Ford Mustangs and the high-performance Shelby derivatives.
He's a rock star in America. And I can tell you, when he comes to Dearborn, he's the same rock star. And people who have been on the project for years are feverishly writing down his thoughts. He's constantly helping us improve product, and it works every day to the benefit of Ford.
Fun to riding? It's got plenty of everything. It's a great improvement over the first one 5 years ago, but I guess it should be, shouldn't it?
We've come a long way from that first car, haven't we?
Yeah, a long ways. It's actually the best balanced performance car that's on the road today for the buck.
There's a relationship between Ford and Shelby that I think creates a triangle. One is the Ford Racing Group. The second is the Ford and the Mustang team. And the third is the team at Shelby American. Carroll refers to him as his band of hot rodders. You take a Mustang GT that comes from the plant here at AAI, and Ford Racing develops components specifically with Shelby in mind.
Carroll Shelby pioneered what we now do, which is develop performance modification parts that people can put on their car and take their cars to the next level, whether they want to track it or just go and enjoy it and cruise it.
Carroll brings to the Mustang a bit of that bad boy attitude that we bake into the Mustang as we design it and as we develop it. I mean, he was the original bad boy of Mustang.
To experience the Shelby experience, you have to get behind the wheel, sit behind it, and really drive it. They're gorgeous to look at, but they're a lot more fun to drive. I think it really comes down to being best of the best.
The reason why I love Carroll is because the cars are still fun to drive, and he's a maverick. He likes challenging the system, and because of it, he pushes companies like Ford to a place they wouldn't normally get, and I admire that.
Yeah, the guy is, you know, a legend all over the world, really. I mean, people love Shelby Mustangs.
It's important for us to align our vision with Carroll's vision, and we take a lot of his feedback, obviously. Some things that we do that may be controversial, we make sure that he's okay with. So we stay pretty tight and connected.
This car is going to be sensational when it hits the marketplace.
Carroll, what did you think of the ride?
I was not only very impressed, I'm looking forward to when it hits the streets. This car is going to set the performance industry. It's going to set a standard for Ford that Ford hasn't been to that plateau before.
Setting the big block standard is Ford's all-new supercharged aluminum block 5.4-liter V8 which powers the 550 horsepower Ford Shelby GT 500 and the 750 horsepower Shelby Super Snake. The engine makes more power, has increased fuel economy, and is 102 pounds lighter than the previous cast iron block GT 500. The new engine debuts aerospace plasma transferred wire arc technology. This is the application of a composite cylinder coating utilizing atomized air and melted steel wire. The functional benefits are reduced friction, improved heat transfer, and weight savings.
The GT500, the Shelby, is all about taking our GT and bringing it up a notch. So when you look at the 5.4 liter, there's no replacement for displacement. So that engine is purposely built for power and straight line acceleration. And that's exactly what you get in that Shelby. It's a very quick car. It feels unbelievable when you hit the accelerator.
So many of our customers modify their engines, and so we need to deliver an engine that is very robust to modifications. And so that's really what the 5.4 gets you. It starts at a 550 from the factory, and as Carroll does out in Las Vegas with the Super Snake, he'll crank that up to 700, 750, and just keep going north of there.
That 5.4 engine that Ford has put together is the best performance engine that I think is built today, and that includes the German makes.
We loved it, the Super Snakes. We think it's great. The further we go with the GT 500, the further Carroll will go with the Super Snake, and that's pretty much a guarantee until the end of time.
That engine is very comfortable at 1,000 horsepower. And I'm thinking of building a few Mustangs at 1,000 horsepower to see what the market is for them.
The Ford Shelby GT 500 and Super Snake reside inside a body whose retro styling is reminiscent of the cars designed in the 60s. However, the car's body shape is thoroughly modern. Ford shapes full-scale Mustang bodies in clay to help engineers design balance and efficiency. Aerodynamics and driving dynamics of all of Ford production models are tested in the wind tunnel at the drivability and test facility near its Dearborn, Michigan headquarters. Each of this GT500's tires are carefully centered on 4 pads. This is essentially a large scale that measures wind forces and sends data to the control room computer.
I mean, we spend an enormous amount of time in our wind tunnels. Obviously, for us to be able to achieve fuel efficiency, to achieve the performance, the downforce that we're looking to get at high speeds to keep the car planted to the ground, and just overall aerodynamics.
The Ford Shelby GT500 is neutral as tested in the wind tunnel. Aero-wise, it's an evolutionary design with improved downforce and reduction in drag. Ride heights change with new wheels and suspension, which helps aero by giving the car more rake. A 6mm change in the gurney-style flap spoiler height up or down is around a 50% change in rear downforce. The goal is to maintain vehicle stability at all speeds while improving grip at high speeds. Some trade-offs were necessary to reduce lift at the cost of increasing drag. A reduction in coefficient of 0.012 can translate to a half-second reduction in the 0 to 150 mile per hour time for the GT500.
Our wind tunnels are very sophisticated. They allow us to take the temperature range and change it. And they allow us to do, crosswinds, straight-on winds. I mean, we have a lot of flexibility in our wind tunnels, but extremely important to a performance vehicle. And the faster you go, the more you got to keep the car planted to the ground.
Stability is an absolute necessity for a 750 horsepower Shelby Super Snake. The Super Snake's shape is somewhat different from the GT500. The front fascia, side moldings, and rear spoilers will affect downforce and drag at speed. The Super Snake's increased power burns more fuel, which requires a different air scoop on the hood to compensate for additional heat. Measurements and data collected in the wind tunnel are sent to engineers for analysis.
We're constantly working with the people at Ford on aerodynamics. I think we'll wind up with a car that'll run 210 miles an hour, a Mustang, and I think it'll be the first of the so-called muscle cars that is capable of that.
Coming up, the Super Snake is prepped for its high-speed desert run.
It's the big engine.
It's the big engine. And when you go to the gunfight, you need a big gun.
This ought to be it.
This is the gun, man.
Carroll Shelby has devoted his career to the pursuit of automotive performance. The Shelby cars of yesteryear and the current models have shown what's possible with the right combination of the hot rod spirit and know-how. Shelby enthusiasts celebrate their passion for performance annually at the Shelby American facility in Las Vegas.
The Shelby Bash is really a gathering of all Shelby enthusiasts. It started on his 85th birthday, and it's really turned into a celebration of Shelby and the vehicles.
We just come down every year for the Shelby event this time of year. Everywhere you go, you run into people wearing Shelby clothes and you have something in common.
It's fun to go around and look at the different cars and what different owners have modified. There's so many things to do. Watch the cars run on the track, and you can run your own car on the track if you want to. One of the things that Carroll Shelby said, which is really true, is don't let your Shelby sit in the garage. Get out and drive it, and that's the fun part.
This year, the Shelby faithful were certainly tempted to order one of the new Shelby Mustang models. These cars feature clever styling refinements and integrated equipment packages of advanced components, including Ford racing suspension, 6-piston Bear brakes, Whipple and Kenny Bell superchargers.
You know, we've always said it's got to look like a Shelby, handle like a Shelby, but important, it's got to sound like a Shelby. So that surfaces our search for is what we consider to be best in class. Alex Borla with Borla exhaust, perfect example.
Carroll and I go back to my youth. I met him in Le Mans many, many years ago, and I actually worked for him. So he and I have known each other for a very long time. When Carroll decided to get back into producing these cars, obviously came to us, and we developed his first exhaust systems, and we've been doing it ever since.
A lot of the development we do is on a vehicle itself, but we've recently, in the past 5 to 10 years or so, begun developing exhaust systems based purely off of math data, usually supplied by the OE themselves. And what this does is it gives us a chance to work on the geometry of the exhaust system. Fitment is a critical issue. We can run modeling software, which will show us how our exhaust system is going to perform, how it's going to sound. One of the really critical aspects can be heat, and we can test for thermal issues as well.
Just like an organ is tuned by different size of pipes and lengths of pipes, we basically have the same options when we tune an exhaust system. And the diameters of the pipe, the material that we use, the design of the muffler internally, which we have patents on, combination make up a musical instrument, which is an exhaust system.
Borla designs and builds exhausts specific to all Shelby Mustangs. This Ford Shelby GT 500 is having its muffler upgraded with the Attack muffler system. The Attack muffler systems are part of the component package of Shelby's new Super Snake because it makes the most horsepower. These are 750 horsepower capable grocery getters. A limited number of Super Snakes will be built per model year to ensure exclusivity.
When it comes to Shelby and gets the Super Snake conversion, it now receives a Shelby number, a CSM number. So now it starts getting chronicled in the Shelby registry, and its entire chronology, as all the vintage Shelby branded cars were, its life forever will be chronicled in that registry.
If you got a Shelby GT500, what is it that we can create that will make that car truly bad? So when you look at it from a front three-quarter view, you see the stance of the car. So when we change the suspension, it sits lower. So it already looks more muscular, and in effect, it lowers the center of gravity with the different spring rates and sway bars and stuff like that. It truly does handle better. You want to make some really cool wheels. So we had some wheels designed, kind of the old 10-spoke theme like they had in the 60s with the GT500. Tires, brakes, carbon fiber rockers, splitters, larger supercharger, engines and air pump. Put more air in, get more air out, so we free up the exhaust with a great Borla exhaust system.
The Shelby team puts in long hours during the development of any car bearing Carroll Shelby's name. With wind tunnel testing, dynamometer runs, and computer-assisted design among the many elements needed to create the car, it's an evolutionary process. But all that hard work pays off when it comes time to test the Super Snake in a real-world scenario.
Next generation.
VP of Operations Gary Patterson is about to shed his corporate title for test driver. He's preparing to take a box-stock Super Snake right off the factory floor out to a closed strip of desert highway to see how fast this beast can go. But before he can put the hammer down, the top tuner at Shelby American, Gil Navarez, makes his tuning calculations on the dyno. He takes the car through its gears, blistering the tires on the rollers. Gil's computer confirms that months of hard work have paid off.
This car is something that you can literally peel the window sticker off, and without any other changes, this is the kind of performance that you can expect when you drive a Super Snake.
Oh, hi, Gary.
How you doing, Carroll?
Oh, I'm doing fine. You got it all ready?
You betcha. We're ready to rock.
There are no drag forces from headwinds here, but Gary's Super Snake easily spins the dyno's rollers to 200 miles per hour.
This is the big engine.
It's the big engine. And when you go to the gunfight, you need a big gun.
This ought to be it.
This is the gun, man. We got the big one.
Coming up, Gary takes the Super Snake off the line and heads to the desert.
Catastrophic failure at 180 miles an hour could get real exciting.
It's next. Don't go away.
For 160, it just feels like you could get out and walk.
In the fast-paced 1960s, the cars of Carroll Shelby dominated racetrack and highway alike. His iconic Cobras and Le Mans winning GTs captured the racing world's attention, while the potent Shelby Mustangs redefined pony cars and boulevard cruisers. Today, once again partnered with Ford, Carroll Shelby continues to push the envelope of performance, producing a herd of Mustang models that are category leaders at every level. Modern Mustangs are built with space-age composites and high-performance power plants, the essential ingredients for Shelby American's race-ready road demons. The biggest and most powerful Shelby available today is the Super Snake, designed to go toe-to-toe with any supercar on the road. And to field test the Super Snake's bite in real-world conditions, the Shelby American team has brought a car right off the production line to the desert outside Las Vegas for a high-speed run. The team has found a straight section of road long enough for today's test driver, Gary Patterson, to find out just how fast this American supercar can go. Preparations for the high-speed run begin well before sunrise, as the cool, calm air of early morning provides the optimal driving conditions for a speed run. The crew mounts cameras and a video V-Box device that monitors and records speed via GPS. Window stickers that could restrict Gary Patterson's view are removed. Final prep is done, including conducting a visual check to make sure the battery is bolted tight, coolant and all fluid levels are correct, and the tires are set to the right pressures.
Make sure there's no nails or anything in the tires that are going to cause a catastrophic failure at 180 miles an hour. It could get real exciting.
Safety checks are complete, and the day isn't getting any younger. The Nevada State Police have closed down over a mile of the highway. This should give Gary enough road for his high-speed run.
10, 9, 8,
Get some RPMs.
5, 4,
ready to launch.
3, 2, 1, go, Gary!
Fourth gear, we're at 100 miles an hour.
In 8 seconds, we've got triple-digit speeds.
Fifth gear, we're 130.
Looks like Gary has the snake running perfectly.
We're 140. We're 150.
Remember, this is a closed course.
We're 160. It just feels like you could get out and walk. I'll tell you what, this thing's sure got the juice. 170.
Gary is just about out of road.
77. 180 miles an hour. Pretty cool ride.
Gary shuts it down.
So pretty remarkable car.
180.4 miles an hour before breakfast is win-win for the 750 horsepower Super Snake Mustang and the team at Shelby American.
This car rockets out of the hole. When you start out, take off in first gear, and it's a balancing. First 3 gears, trying to get that power to the ground. Feather the throttle through first, second, feather a little bit more. Third, you pretty much plan it, but nice and easy. That thing squirms around a little bit. You're getting it, it's gripping for traction. The road's a little bit grainy, a little bit gravelly. Once it gets traction toward the top end of third gear, grab fourth, hit fifth. Now you're into the 3-digit numbers on the speedometer, and that thing ratchets up like you wouldn't believe. 160, 170. As you get going faster and faster, you know, things get to be a little bit more tunnel vision, but the car's still solid, it's smooth, it's stable. Climbs to 180 in 5th gear, 180.48 miles an hour. But if you want more speed than that, of course, you can take it over to the Shelby Motorsports Speed Shop, get long tube headers, you know, cams and all the stuff, get another 100 horses or more, if that's what you want to do. But this baby rocked today.
Since the 1960s, through the amazing revival of the Shelby brand today, Shelby and Ford's mission has been to